The cashier rolled her eyes as she saw the pile of expired coupons. "Sir, these are from 1987, she said with obvious irritation. "We can't accept coupons from the Stone Age." The manager laughed from behind the counter. "Some people just don't understand how the modern world works." But they had no idea that the quiet 79-year-old man they were mocking had once coordinated supply drops that saved entire battalions. His name was William Bill Harrison, and in 3 minutes, someone would walk through those doors who would change everything they thought they knew about respect. Bill Harrison had been shopping at Morrison's Family Market for over 20 years. Every Thursday morning at exactly 9:30 a.m., he would arrive with his carefully organized coupon folder, his handwritten shopping list, and exact change counted out the night before. The same routine he'd followed since his wife Margaret passed away 5 years ago. This particular Thursday started like any other. Bill wore his clean but faded flannel shirt, his worn leather jacket with the small American flag pin on the lapel, and his weathered baseball cap that simply read U.S. Army Veteran. He moved slowly through the aisles, not from laziness, but from the persistent ache in his left leg where shrapnel had found its mark in Da Nang, 1968. His cart contained the basics: bread, milk, a can of soup, some ground beef, and a small cake mix. The cake was for his granddaughter's birthday tomorrow. She was turning 7, and even though money was tight on his fixed income, he never missed making her a birthday cake from scratch. At the checkout, Bill carefully arranged his items and pulled out his coupon folder. It was an old accordion-style organizer that Margaret had given him years ago, with sections for different stores and categories. Some of the coupons were indeed old. He sometimes forgot to clean them out, but many were current. The cashier, a young woman named Brittany with bright purple hair and multiple piercings, sighed dramatically when she saw the folder. "Oh, great, another coupon guy," she muttered under her breath, loud enough for Bill to hear. Bill smiled politely and began sorting through his coupons, his arthritic fingers working slowly through the papers. "I have one for the bread here somewhere," he said quietly, "and I believe there's one for the ground beef that's still good." Brittany grabbed the coupons without looking and immediately shook her head. "Sir, these are from 1987, she announced loudly, holding up one of the expired ones Bill had missed. "We can't accept coupons from the Stone Age." The manager, a man in his 30s named Derek with a thin mustache and an attitude to match, approached from behind the counter. "Problem here?" he asked, though his tone suggested he already knew and was enjoying it. "This guy is trying to use coupons from when I wasn't even born," Brittany complained. "Look at this one. It expired before I was in kindergarten." Derek took the coupon and made a show of examining it. "Sir, you can't seriously expect us to honor something this old. Some people just don't understand how the modern world works." He turned to the growing line of customers behind Bill. "I'm sorry, everyone. We've got another one who thinks the rules don't apply to them." Bill's face reddened slightly, but he kept his voice calm. "I'm sorry. There must be some current ones in there. My granddaughter helped me organize them last week. Perhaps if we could just look through them together." "Look, sir," Derek said with exaggerated patience, "I don't have time to teach you how coupons work. Either pay full price or take your business elsewhere. We're trying to run a modern establishment here." A few customers in line began to grumble. "Come on, old man," someone called out. "Some of us have places to be." Bill's hands trembled slightly as he began putting the coupons back in his folder, not from age or weakness, but from the familiar feeling of being dismissed, of being treated as if his service, his sacrifices, his very existence didn't matter. "I'll just pay full price," he said quietly, reaching for his wallet. But Derek wasn't finished. "You know what? I think it's time you found a new place to shop. We get tired of dealing with this every week. This is a business, not a charity for people living in the past." The words hit Bill like a physical blow. He had never asked for charity, never demanded special treatment. He had simply been trying to stretch his pension dollars to afford a birthday cake for his granddaughter. "Please," Bill said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've been shopping here for 20 years. I just need these few items." 20 years of holding up our lines and causing problems," Derek replied. "Security. But before the security guard could reach them, the automatic doors at the front of the store opened with a familiar whoosh. In walked a woman in her 50s with short graying hair, wearing a simple sweater and jeans. She looked ordinary enough, except for the way she carried herself, straight-backed, alert, purposeful. Her name was Colonel Sarah Mitchell, recently retired from the Army Corps of Engineers. She had stopped by Morrison's to grab coffee before her weekly visit to the VA hospital where she volunteered. She had been reaching for a shopping basket when she heard a voice that stopped her cold. She knew that voice, calm, measured, respectful, even under pressure. She had heard it 23 years ago in a tent outside Sarajevo, talking her through the most dangerous night of her military career. Sarah turned and saw him. Older, grayer, but unmistakably the same man who had saved her life and the lives of 47 other soldiers when their supply convoy was ambushed. Staff Sergeant William Harrison, the man who had stayed behind to coordinate their evacuation while under heavy fire, the man who had earned a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart in a single night, the man who was now being humiliated by a grocery store manager who wasn't even born when Bill was dodging bullets for his country. Sarah didn't hesitate. She walked straight to the checkout counter, her presence immediately commanding attention. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, her voice carrying the unmistakable authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Derek, still riding high on his power trip, smirked. "Just dealing with a difficult customer who doesn't understand how business works in the 21st century." Sarah looked at Bill, and their eyes met. For a moment, recognition flickered between them. Bill's mouth opened slightly, but Sarah gave him the slightest shake of her head. "Not yet." "I see," Sarah said calmly. "And what exactly is the nature of this difficulty?" "Expired coupons from the 1980s, Brittany chimed in. "And he's been holding up the line for 10 minutes. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "May I see his items?" Derek gestured dismissively at Bill's cart. "Bread, milk, soup, hamburger, cake mix. Nothing special, but he wants to pay 1987 prices for 2024 groceries." "The cake mix," Sarah said quietly. "Special occasion?" Bill nodded, his voice barely audible. "My granddaughter's birthday. She's turning 7 tomorrow." Something in Sarah's expression shifted. Derek, misreading the situation, pressed on. "Look, lady, I don't know who you are, but this doesn't concern you. We're trying to run a business here, and we can't let every senior citizen think they can." "Staff Sergeant," Sarah interrupted, looking directly at Bill. The effect was immediate. Bill straightened unconsciously, muscle memory from decades past. "Yes, ma'am." "At ease, Sergeant." Sarah turned to Derek, and when she spoke again, her voice carried a chill that made everyone in the immediate area fall silent. "Do you know who you're talking to?" Derek blinked, suddenly uncertain. "Some old guy with expired coupons?" "This old guy," Sarah said, her voice rising just enough to carry to every corner of the store, "is Staff Sergeant William Harrison, Bronze Star recipient, Purple Heart recipient, and the reason I'm standing here today instead of buried in a cemetery in Bosnia." The store had gone completely quiet. Even the background music seemed to have stopped. Sarah continued, her eyes never leaving Derek's face. 23 years ago, Sergeant Harrison saved the lives of 48 soldiers when our convoy was ambushed outside Sarajevo. While we were pinned down by sniper fire, he stayed behind to coordinate our evacuation. He took shrapnel in his leg and kept fighting. He didn't leave his post until every single one of us was safely evacuated. Derek's face had gone pale. I didn't know." "Of course you didn't know," Sarah snapped. "Because you didn't bother to ask. You saw an elderly man trying to save a few dollars on groceries for his granddaughter's birthday, and you decided he was beneath your notice." She turned to address the growing crowd of customers and employees who had gathered. "This man served 3 tours in Vietnam and 2 in Bosnia. He has more courage in his little finger than most people have in their entire bodies. And you're worried about expired coupons?" Sarah reached into her purse and pulled out her wallet. "Sergeant Harrison, it would be my honor to purchase your groceries today. Consider it a small down payment on a debt I can never fully repay." "Ma'am, that's not necessary," Bill said quietly, but Sarah was already handing her credit card to a now silent Brittany. "It's completely necessary," Sarah replied. "And it's Colonel Mitchell now, Bill. I made it to Colonel, thanks to what you taught me about leadership under fire." The recognition finally clicked fully in Bill's eyes. "Little Sarah from the engineers? The one who was afraid of heights?" Sarah laughed, and suddenly she was 25 again, scared and far from home. "Not so little anymore, and I got over the height thing. Had to after you convinced me to rappel down that cliff to set the charges. You did good, Sarah," Bill said, and his voice was stronger now. "I always knew you would." Derek cleared his throat nervously. "Colonel Mitchell, we had no idea. If there's anything we can do." Sarah's expression remained cold. "There is. You can apologize to Sergeant Harrison. A real apology." Derek nodded quickly. "Sergeant Harrison, I am truly sorry. I was completely out of line. Your service, your sacrifice, I have no excuse for how I treated you." Bill nodded graciously. "Apology accepted, son. We all make mistakes." But Sarah wasn't finished. "Manager," she said, reading Derek's name tag, "what's your corporate office number?" Derek's remaining color drained from his face. "Ma'am, please, I understand I made a mistake." "The number," Sarah repeated. With shaking hands, Derek wrote down the corporate number. Sarah tucked it into her purse. "Sergeant Harrison has been a loyal customer here for 20 years. I think corporate might be interested to know how you treat war heroes who are trying to buy birthday cakes for their granddaughters." She turned back to Bill. "Sergeant, would you allow me to accompany you to your granddaughter's birthday party tomorrow? I'd love to meet the young lady who's lucky enough to have you as a grandfather." Bill's eyes misted over. "She'd be honored, Colonel. She's been learning about the military in school. She'd be thrilled to meet a real colonel." "The honor would be mine," Sarah replied. As they walked toward the exit together, Sarah carrying Bill's groceries, the entire store remained silent. But just before they reached the door, spontaneous applause began. It started with an elderly man near the pharmacy, spread to a middle-aged woman with her children, and soon the entire store was clapping. Bill stopped, overwhelmed. He turned back to the crowd, straightened his shoulders, and gave a small, dignified nod of acknowledgement. Outside in the parking lot, Sarah helped Bill load his groceries into his old pickup truck. "Bill," she said softly, "I meant what I said in there. You saved my life, and I never got the chance to properly thank you." "You just did," Bill replied. "More than you know." "Can I ask you something?" Sarah said. "Why didn't you ever mention your service record in there? Your medals? Your commendations?" Bill was quiet for a moment. "Because that's not who I am anymore, Sarah. I'm just a grandfather who wants to bake a cake for his granddaughter. The medals are in a box in my closet. What matters now is being there for my family." Sarah nodded, understanding. "That's exactly the kind of answer I would expect from the man who taught me what real leadership looks like." They exchanged phone numbers, and Sarah promised to call about the birthday party. As she watched Bill drive away in his old truck, she made a mental note to stop by Morrison's corporate office the next morning. The next day, Bill's granddaughter Emma had the best birthday party of her young life. Not only did her grandfather make her favorite chocolate cake from scratch, but a real Army colonel came to her party and told her stories about what a hero her grandfather was. Emma wore Bill's old Army cap for the rest of the day, marching around the house and saluting everyone she met. "My grandpa is a real hero," she announced to anyone who would listen. Bill watched her with quiet pride. At 7 years old, Emma might not fully understand what his service meant, but she understood that her grandfather was someone special. And for Bill, that was worth more than any medal. Derek never called corporate. He didn't need to. Sarah had already scheduled a meeting with the regional manager for the following Monday. By Tuesday, Morrison's Family Market had implemented a new policy, a 10% military discount for all veterans and mandatory sensitivity training for all employees. Derek was transferred to a different location and required to complete additional customer service training. Brittany, surprisingly, asked to participate in the sensitivity training voluntarily. The encounter with Bill and Sarah had affected her more than she expected. "I never thought about what people have been through," she told her manager later. "I just saw an old man with old coupons. I didn't see a hero." Morrison's also established a Heroes Shop Free program, where local veterans could nominate another veteran who was struggling financially to receive free groceries once a month. Bill was the first recipient nominated, though he initially tried to decline. "Someone else needs it more than I do," he protested. "Sergeant," Sarah told him over the phone, "sometimes accepting help gracefully is just as important as giving it. Let people honor you." So Bill accepted and used the extra money he saved to start a small scholarship fund at Emma's school for children of military families. The story spread through the veteran community, not through social media or news reports, but the way important stories always do among those who understand. Quietly, person to person, carrying the weight of truth. Other veterans began shopping at Morrison's, not just for the discount, but because they knew they would be treated with respect. The store became an unofficial gathering place for local vets, who would often be found in the coffee area, sharing stories and supporting each other. Bill became something of a local legend, though he never sought the attention. Young people would recognize him from Emma's proud storytelling at school, and older folks would nod respectfully when he passed. But he remained the same quiet, dignified man he had always been. On quiet Thursday mornings, Bill still shops at Morrison's at exactly 9:30 a.m. He still brings his coupon folder, though now the staff helps him sort through them with patience and respect. He still counts out exact change, still wears his faded flannel and his veteran's cap. But now, there's a small plaque by the customer service desk that reads, "Morrison's Family Market proudly serves our local heroes. Thank you for your service." And everyone who works there knows the story of the day they almost threw out a real American hero. Sarah visits Bill and Emma regularly now. She's become like family, the aunt Emma never had and the daughter Bill cherishes. They often sit on Bill's front porch in the evenings, sharing stories and watching Emma play in the yard. "You know," Sarah told him recently, "I spent my whole career trying to live up to the example you set that night in Bosnia, leading with quiet strength, putting others first, doing what's right even when it's hard." Bill smiled and adjusted his old baseball cap. "You did more than live up to it, Colonel. You made it your own." As the sun set behind them and Emma's laughter filled the evening air, Bill reflected on how strange life could be. He had never wanted to be called a hero. He had simply done his job, kept his promise to bring his soldiers home safely, and then come home to build a quiet life with the people he loved. But sometimes being a hero isn't about wanting recognition. Sometimes it's about standing up when others can't, doing what's right when others won't, and maintaining your dignity when others try to take it away. In the end, Bill Harrison got something more valuable than an apology from a grocery store manager. He got the chance to show his granddaughter what real strength looks like: quiet, humble, and unshakable. And every Thursday morning, when he walks through those automatic doors at Morrison's Family Market, he carries with him the quiet satisfaction of a man who has served his country, protected his fellow soldiers, and raised a granddaughter who knows that real heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they just wear faded flannel shirts and weathered baseball caps and carry coupon folders organized by someone who loves them. The story lives on, not in headlines or social media posts, but in the way people treat each other, one interaction at a time. Because some lessons are too important to be learned only once, and some heroes are too valuable to be forgotten. Bill Harrison never sought to be remembered as a hero. He simply wanted to buy groceries for his granddaughter's birthday cake. But in doing so, he reminded everyone who witnessed that day what quiet dignity looks like in the face of disrespect and what it means to serve others without asking for recognition in return. The bronze star in his closet remains polished but unused, but its meaning has only grown stronger. It carries the weight of 3 tours, countless missions, and one grandfather's love for his granddaughter's future. And every time Bill reaches into his wallet to pay for groceries, he remembers that some battles are won not with weapons, but with the simple act of maintaining your dignity, treating others with respect, and never forgetting who you are, no matter how others choose to see you. In the end, that's what made William Harrison more than just a veteran. It made him a man worth saluting, even in the checkout line of a grocery store.